Hello, sweet souls. How are you? How are you feeling? How is your heart? How is your soul? How is the peace and the calm that is within you, right there, wishing to surface if it hasn't already? I'm excited to come into you today because I heard the call to share on all my platforms how I activated my life force and love force energy. And they're two slightly different things. And I did, I think, a whole video about it. So I will tag that video in the description. In short, your life force is your aliveness, your desire to survive and to thrive, the energy that moves through you to wake you up to a new way for yourself that naturally overflows. And when you wake up that life force and you begin to cultivate devotion to yourself, to all, you awaken the love force energy in you. You actually kind of transmute and shift life force into love force energy. And not a lot of people talk about love force energy. It is something that I have gotten to know very, very well. It is almost always flowing through me. And if it's not at the surface, it is easier than it's been in the past to bring it to the surface, to allow it to rise. Your love force energy is your love, of course, your compassion, your forgiveness, your awareness. And this is not just for yourself, but for others as well. But you start with you, because in starting with you, it overflows to others. And so today I heard the call to share exactly like the 3 steps that awakened the love force energy within me. And these steps are rather hefty steps. You know, they're weighted, they have stuff in them. But I'm excited to tell you about them today. So, first of all, do you want to take a deep breath with me? Let's take a deep breath together. Okay, I invite you to close your eyes, ground into your seat, and breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Ready? Breathe. There we are. We're here now. I've arrived. I hope you have arrived too. So last week, I hosted a 3-day ritual series. And that's where we worked with the elements, with ceremonial cacao, with the ancestors, to offer reverence to where we are, where we were on each day. And I moved people through practices to hear the soul, align with the soul, hear the ancestors, understand how supported they are, and to actually vocalize the desires, both the immaterial and the material desires of your soul. And if you're interested in that, I'm doing another one next week. It's linked down in the description. But I finished and I got on the phone with my girlfriend, and she asked about it. And I said, it was kind of wild that my work today could be so natural and so effortless, that my soul's work could be quote unquote easy, right? I used to think work had to feel hard. And this is the context in which I want to explain love force energy to you, because it changes your perspective on everything: relationships, soul work, all of it. And I was telling this friend, gosh, it almost feels a little bit odd or a little bit strange because, you know, I spent an hour and a half each day in ceremony and ritual with people. We did this all on Zoom. And I had to prepare beforehand, and I have to tidy up afterward. And I also have to cultivate the energy within me to be able to hold those containers virtually, because it does require a lot of my own love force energy. And it does invite the ancestors to support and hold our process, right? And I explained that to her, and I was like, it felt kind of easy. Is that right? Is that wrong? And we had a beautiful discussion about how, in shifting my life and awakening my life force energy and then shifting it to love force energy, I have now begun to allow all of life, including pursuing my purpose or my work, which for me in this moment, they happen to overlap. They don't always, but it made that easier. It made that feel more natural. It made it feel more innate, right? And what I said to her was, gosh, my soul has invited me to align with my purpose softly, gently, through energy and not effort. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. And I recounted to her that, over the last 25 years, I've had lots of careers, right? And I've worked in startup tech, building out businesses on the internet a long time ago. I worked in travel, online travel, and in real life travel. And I worked in food. I actually ran a food business and a food blog, and I wrote 2 cookbooks. And all that work was hard. I had to put in a lot of effort. I'm not saying that it wasn't natural and I didn't have some gifts at it, right? But it was hard, it was competitive, it was grueling and exhaustive work. And I was always like thinking and striving and making and doing. There was a lot less feeling. I kind of pushed all the feelings down, and there was a lot more doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not going to judge that, because I did what I needed to do in those moments, like with what I knew then, right? And you are doing the same. All is allowed. Period. All is allowed. And yet, if you want to keep working hard, you should. But I know now that there's another way. And I woke myself up to this new way slowly over time by attuning to energy rather than effort. So I'm going to share the three steps that probably have a lot of sub-steps in between them. And I can show you how to do this in one of my workshops or courses, or if you want to talk about it one-on-one. But first and foremost, I awakened the life force energy that was within me. And, I want to say I did that by exploring my wounds, by leaning into my pain. And yes, I did do that way. And also, I experienced like 5 dark nights of the soul all on top of each other at one point. So I had no other choice but to go within. Like, the soul called me in. It was the soul and my ancestors, but they were like, let's go in. Let's understand these wounds. Let's get really curious about them. And the more I leaned toward my pain, the more self-love switched on within me. It like switched. Leaning toward your pain and understanding it can help that pain disintegrate, can remove some of the blocks within the body such that life force energy can move again, right? Like, it can move up and down the chakras from your base out through your crown. And then it awakens the love within you, because to understand your pain, you must, I think it's a must, choose to take responsibility for that pain, right? I believe now that we are not victims. There are some people who are victims, no question. I don't want to say that that concept doesn't exist, but much of my wounds and much of my pain, when I was a child, I was a victim. As I become an adult, I could take responsibility for my part in it all, understand it, and then self-love awakens. And you get to show yourself self-forgiveness, self-belief, and self-trust, understanding, right? So that was first. The first thing was awakening the life force energy. And that was a bit about how I did that. Second, as I awakened the life force within me, I was continually bringing curiosity to anything that popped up within the body that felt like resistance or contrast. So, second, I expressed and followed my soul's voice. And that's when love really began to flow, right? Because anything that popped up as resistance in the moment, I would not push it down, not at all. I would even ask people in the moment if something they said, caused me to feel a certain thing. I would say, could I kind of feel this with you? Can I express this with you? And in cases when I couldn't do that, I would just go within and talk to the soul. I would talk to my soul every day, and I still talk to my soul every day. It's literally a dialogue aloud. You can see the videos on my channel that share that. And in talking to my soul and expressing from my soul and following my soul's voice and its guidance, not only did love begin to flow, but it helped me remember my wholeness, that I was perfect just as I was, even as I was imperfect. You are perfect just as you are, even as you are imperfect. How beautiful is imperfection, right? I think it was around the time then that I began to understand or study wabi sabi, which is the art of imperfection, because it is a kind of art to allow our forgiveness, to allow our imperfection. Forgive me. And I remembered my wholeness. And that allowed me to really sync up more to soul and sync up more to source, which is love, right? If you want to call it God, you go ahead and call it God. I call it source. I call it love. I call it creation energy. And I also synced up to the sacredness of this life, to every moment of this life, and to the sacredness of all life. All life is sacred. So once I shifted into embracing that, into really getting into the flow of love force energy, of my love force energy, I stepped into the flow of all love force energy. All of it. Like I was riding the waves with all of it. Everything was love and is love. Such that three, I embodied my ultimate purpose as love. And just a hint to you, it may be that your ultimate purpose is love too, right? My ultimate purpose is love. Love of self, love of soul, love of source, love of all. All. No exceptions. No exceptions. We even love the people who cause us pain. And we do that because they are reflecting something back to us that we may learn about ourselves, to remember our wholeness, to remember more parts of us. And in really embodying love, I began to attract all that was meant for me. All of it, little by little, right? So that means I attracted romantic relationships, literally by name. Like I would sit in the energy of the relationship I wish to call in. I would name that individual, and like they would show up a month later. And oftentimes we call in romantic relationships that from which we wish to learn something, right? We don't just want to feel pleasure, though that's wonderful, people show up to teach us something. So I called in romantic relationships. I called in aligned teachers and aligned healers. Literally after a cacao ritual a few weeks ago, I may have mentioned this. 3 days later, like in the ritual, I asked for help for a really good healer for my ankle. And 3 days later, that individual showed up. I called in new sacred lands in the Southwest on which to further root into my purpose and into my soul work, to be around some people who shared some of my values, right? I called in a new home, the one that's all around me now that I'm in. And it feels like my soul. It feels cozy. It feels alive. It feels safe. It feels warm. It feels sacred. Every element feels sacred, right? I sold everything or most things before I moved. And then I had to bring in new things. And I've sort of bring a lot of intentionality to what I bring into this home now. I don't need a lot. I need what I need. And that's it. And then I also attracted my soul work. And this is part of my soul work, speaking to you today as storyteller, offering cacao in ritual, right? Teaching others how to hear their soul, how to surface the well of love that is already within them when they get still and they get quiet and they listen. And the best part of all of this is that this kind of love force energy work, it's effortless now. I've designed my life around, devotion, practice, stillness, peace, listening within, and holding the vision of my desires, right? So I told my friend last week, I don't believe that work or manifesting my dreams or desires is meant to be hard. It's not meant to be hard for me, and it's not meant to be hard for you. My soul, the more I speak to it, it aligns me with my purpose softly, gently, through energy and not hard work. And it's wild for me to be saying that because I used to work 70, 80 hours a week for 20, 25 years, right? But I promise you, this is my life experience. This is the wisdom I'm meant to share, and your soul can do this too. And the beautiful part of it is I'll continue sharing videos here on how all of this unfolds. And also you can be in ritual with me and I can teach you practices on how to do this. And I have another one coming up next week in March. So you can check the description if you want to join. You can join live. You can watch the replays. Literally, I've heard people do both and had very similar experiences, very awakening experiences. And ideally, you drink ceremonial cacao with it. You bring cacao to your own little altar, to your own little space, but you don't have to, because I call in the ancestors and I call in the spirit of cacao and it holds us. So if you don't want to get cacao, that's okay. It will be a far more loving experience with cacao. But you do you, right? So I invite you to join me if you feel the call. The event is called You Are Your Soul Mate, because you are love and you are attracting all that's meant for you. And I think that's all I hear for today. Yeah. I thank you. I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening. And I promise I'll be back again very, very soon.